Hi and good evening to everyone. My name is Vanessa Trinna and I'm at it. My matrix number is 113599 from PPD 1041 Group 10. And today I would like to share my reflection on the talk given by Ms. Atiqah about stress management. I found the session really eye-opening and relatable because stress is something that all of us deal with, especially as student myself who are constantly juggling with my academic work, responsibilities, and personal life. One of the most important ideas that stood out to me was Ms. Atiqah's explanation that stress itself not always a bad thing. She mentioned that a certain amount of stress can actually motivate us to perform better and well. However, it becomes a harmful thing when it turns into distress, when we feel overwhelmed and lost control. This point really changed my perspective because I used to think that stress is purely negative. Now I realize it's more about how we manage it and respond to it. So instead of running away from stress, we can always learn to work with it. Another key takeaway for me was the practical techniques Ms. Atiqah shared for managing stress. She talked about breathing exercise and taking a short breaks. She also emphasized time management as one of the best ways to reduce stress as student. Often stress comes from procrastination and poor planning. I could really relate to that because I tend to delay assignment until the very last minute. Like there's a few minutes until the submit time, and which it only makes me more anxious since I'm not finished with the assignment. But after the talk, hearing her advice made me realize that planning ahead, breaking big tasks into a smaller part, rewarding myself after finishing them could really help. There's a 4 breathing technique that she shared with us through the slide, but the one that really stood out to me was blow the bubble method. So how we do it is actually how it was like exhale through the mouth as if we blowing a soap bubbles. I tried it afterward when we're having a presentation the next day, and it surprisingly helped me to calm down during a very stressful evening before my presentation. Afterward, when she talked about the symptoms of stress like headaches, fatigue, or feeling unmotivated, I realized how often I have ignored these signs. For example, during my diploma, back to my diploma time, I tend to sleep very little and eat a lot of fast food. I used to think that was normal, but now I see it as my body's way of signaling that I need to slow down. I also like how Ms. Atiqah reminded us that it's okay to ask for help from friends, family, or counselor. That point really hit home for me because sometimes I feel like I need to handle everything by myself. Knowing that reaching out is a sign of strength, not a weakness, was really empowering. Moving forward, I plan to apply what I learned by setting more realistic goals, using a planner to organize my time, and incorporating short mindfulness breaks into my daily routine. I also want to check in with myself regularly, asking, how am I feeling right now, instead of waiting until I'm feeling like I'm burnout. Another step I would take is to support my friends when I notice their stress, maybe by sharing some of this technique or simply being there to listen. Overall, my personal takeaway from Ms. Atiqah's talk is that stress management is about awareness and balance. We can't control every challenge that comes our way, but we can control how we respond. This story reminded me to be kinder to myself and to take stress as a teacher, not an enemy. Thank you.